Estoy contenta, estoy emocionada, muy entusiasmada de poder recibir en este estudio a una mujer pues que ha revolucionado la manera de estudiar y que, bueno, pues lo que pretende ahora es venir a México a pues cambiar un poco también el sistema tradicional educativo. Ella es Esther Wojcicki. Did I say it correct?
Great.
Thank you so much for the advice about the jet ski. Thank you so much. This is not your first time in Mexico.
No, it's not my first time. I'm very happy to say.
You like it here?
I love Mexico. I love the geography. I love the country, and I actually really love the people. They're so friendly.
Have you had any time to be around or to visit something?
Well, I visited a lot of different places in Mexico City, the museums. I walked around, is it Polanco?
Yeah.
Oh, I walked around at night. I walked in the park. I've been to some other places in Mexico in the past, and resorts.
And we have good friends in common, so maybe they take you around.
They take me around, but also it's just really easy to make friends. People are very friendly, you know, and if I speak even a very poor Spanish, they cheer me on. It's like, oh yes, you can say it more.
Oh, could you speak Spanish a little bit?
No, just I read Spanish.
Oh, you do?
And
you understand?
I understand some Spanish, yes.
Wow.
But I am now going to make it a point of learning Spanish well, so I can actually communicate effectively.
Wow. Now, can we know a little bit about your background? I mean, I was telling the audience that you're a journalist, and
yes.
You've been teaching like for
34 years.
34 years.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all your life you've been
yes,
teaching. Yeah.
That's right.
What came first, the journalist or
the journalism? So I first started as a journalist, and I worked for Los Angeles Times, and then I worked for a Berkeley newspaper called the Berkeley Daily Gazette, and then also worked part-time for Time magazine. Mm-hmm. And what I discovered when I was doing this, it was in the 1960s and 70s, there was a lot of discrimination against women. So I had a lot of problems, and unfortunately I couldn't even get into the San Francisco Press Club because it was men only. And so that changed, fortunately. But in the meantime, I just decided to have some children.
3, right?
3 daughters. 3 daughters.
All women?
Yes, all women. Yes, it was a very exciting household.
And you had to empower them because you suffered the discrimination, no?
That's right.
I guess so.
Yes, for sure. So my goal when they were born was to empower them, and I said, I don't care whether you're a girl or boy or whatever, you can do it. So that was my goal for them, and they did it.
You did great, yeah, you did a great job. That gives me hope.
Well, it's
because
for all
of your 3 daughters, they're great, they're doing great.
Yes, they're all doing great. So you know what they do, yes?
I know about Suzanne.
Susan is like the CEO of YouTube.
That's correct.
I am very
but before
proud
that,
of her.
she was in Google.
So before she did that, Susan was in charge of advertising at Google. So she came up with a lot of the strategies of how to earn money for Google. So when she first met Larry and Sergey, all they knew how to do was find information, search, which is very important, right? But then her duty when she was hired was, please help us make money. We don't know how to make any money. And so she was like, well, let me think about it.
Wow.
But then she came up with a lot of strategies for how to advertise effectively on Google together with the team of people. And then of course you know what happened with Google and the advertising.
Of course.
Yes. And
but how did they meet? That the audience will love to know how it's Susan with
Sergey and Larry. So Susan bought a house, and then it was a very big house, 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
Very big.
Very big for a young couple. And then she came back from her honeymoon and she realized she couldn't pay for the mortgage. And that the question is like, what is she going to do? You know, no, her mom and dad, no, that was not an option. So she thought, well, I'll just rent my garage. And so she looked around for somebody to rent the garage. And somehow she met Larry and Sergey.
Wow.
And they moved into not only the garage, they occupied 3 bedrooms and the bathroom downstairs.
They slept there also.
Well, they weren't supposed to, but they ended up sleeping there a lot. You know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, they and their 30 computers
wow.
were in the garage and the house and the bathroom.
Yeah.
But they were very friendly, a little bit geeky, but you know, and so this is a way to find information. So I was like, oh, okay, really? Let me see how it works.
Wow, what a revolution.
That's right, it was a revolution. It was a big revolution because before Google, all these search engines, they were curated. So that meant, you know, that was kind of like somebody looked over it and put it in. So Yahoo was very popular then. And I remember I had bought a Yahoo Yellow Pages. It was about this thick. And then you looked up in the Yellow Pages what you wanted, you know, maybe hair salon. And you looked up and then you found it and then you typed in the address. But that was the way you searched.
Yeah.
Well, it was really primitive.
Very.
And then you went on Google and it was like, oh my God, it found it for me right away.
Right away.
So then I thought, oh, this is a good idea.
And then your other daughter is also into tech, no?
So my second daughter, Janet, she's in pediatrics. So she works in nutrition and pediatric gastroenterology.
Okay.
And she works with AIDS patients and also with basically nutrition.
Okay.
And you know, how to be healthy. And then my third daughter, Anne, she is the founder of 23andMe. It's the personal genetics company.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, you spit into a little tube and then you find out about your ancestry and you find out about your health issues and what is your disposition or predisposition to getting that kind of a disease. It's a small probability, but you know, maybe if you have something, you know, you're predisposed to, you might want to know.
Of course.
So, you know, like for example, I found out that I was predisposed to diabetes. But
so
I'm
you
thin.
Take care.
And I thought, oh, how could this be? But so just knowing that, then I stopped eating. Unfortunately, I stopped eating cake.
You love sweets?
Well, I loved cake and chocolate.
Wow, me too. Chocolate is my
now,
guilty pleasure.
So I limit the amount of sweets. Yeah, it was very helpful.
How did you raise them? I mean, what did you give them? What did you feed them? I mean, is there any formula?
My daughter asked me, Susan asked me, what did you feed us for breakfast,
Yeah,
Mom?
exactly. What kind of cereal?
Well, the fact is I gave them a big choice and let them do it themselves. The idea was to teach them to be as independent as possible and then teach them, I also taught them, well, actually, thankfully, Sesame Street taught them the alphabet. Thank you, Sesame Street. And then I taught them how to read a little bit, and you know, the goal was to make them feel like they could control their environment.
What about your parents? Were you raised like that? Like very independent? It wasn't easy for them.
No,
I mean, being immigrants in New York, or it wasn't easy.
It was very tough, very tough. Yeah, they actually, today we would be classified as below the poverty level. We had very little food. You know, I didn't have any new clothing until I was already like 16, 17 years old. It was a very tough situation.
And how did you manage? I mean,
well, so what happened is that I realized at about the age of 10, you know, living in this life situation, it was not good. And so I decided, you know, as a child, that the only way out was education. Now, why I decided this, I don't, must have been a book I read, or I heard somebody say something, or whatever, but after that, I just dedicated myself to reading and to doing well in school. I had not done so well in school in the beginning. I was a bit of a rebel.
Okay.
Well, I didn't listen to the teacher. I ended up getting paddled a lot. That was okay back then. They used to paddle you, hit you with rulers, do terrible things. But then I decided education was going to get me out of this situation. And so I went to school, double session actually. The Los Angeles Public Schools didn't have enough facilities, so half the student body would go in the morning from 7 till 11:30, and the other half would go from 12:30 to 4.
And you did both?
And I did both.
Wow.
I asked for the permission to do both. And no other student, they thought, oh, this is a crazy student. Okay, we'll give you permission, because no one else will ever ask to do this.
Yeah.
So I went for both.
Wow.
And then I ended up getting a scholarship to University of California at Berkeley. And my parents they didn't know quite what to do with me, because they thought that I was going to get married. They wanted me to get married early, you know, find
like a Jewish American princess, I guess. A Jewish American princess.
You find a nice, rich husband and get married. What do you mean? Go to college? What for? What an idea that is. And so I had to be a little tough. And then it worked for me, but also they didn't understand what I majored.
It was another world. I mean,
it was another world. I majored in political science and in English. And they're like, oh, that's so useless. You know, what are you going to do with it? You should be majoring in business. You know?
It's all about money.
It's all about money. And but that got me out of poverty, you know, and then I married my husband early.
Rich?
No, he was not rich. He was not any richer than me. We were both, he's an academic. He's a professor of physics.
Oh, wow.
And so, but he was richer. At least we weren't starving.
Okay.
You know, we had a place to live, and we had food, and, you know, and then we got along well. Then we moved to Europe. We thought we were, so privileged.
Where in Europe?
We were in Europe in the middle of the 1960s. And we lived in Geneva and Switzerland, and then I lived in Paris.
Wow.
And I thought I had arrived. You know, it was so nice to be.
This is what I always wanted to do.
I always wanted to do. And I felt very lucky that I had, had this opportunity. And then we came back, and my husband got a professorship at Stanford University. And then I decided, well, I taught for a short time. I thought teaching was a good career. At least I didn't face the discrimination in teaching. So I taught, and then my first daughter was born. First, second, they were very quick. First one, then 18 months later, the second one, and then 2 years later, the third one. And at that point, I had my own class right in my house.
Wow, yeah. 3 students, of course.
3 students. It's like, and then I thought, well, I'll just try out all my theories on them. Let's see if it works.
And you did.
And I did. I tried it all out. My question for myself was, how early could I teach them to do something?
¿Cómo acabaron los mercados financieros? ¿Y cómo arrancó el mercado político? Un noticiero que da seguimiento a la información que marca la agenda en México. Entre Mercados, con Lucero Álvarez. Lunes a viernes, 5 de la tarde. Porque reconoces lo importante, el financiero Bloomberg.
My question for myself was, how early could I teach them to do something? Mm-hmm. At what age, could they learn to do just basic things? And then also, I never talked to them in baby talk. Mm-hmm. I would take them to the store and talk like they were adults, and people would look at me like, oh my, what is the matter with that woman? She's talking to the baby. What? The baby? But I don't know, it seemed to work.
I hate that baby talking. I mean, you give me hope. Really, you give me hope, because no.
Yeah, I just couldn't do that. It just wasn't, it was too cutesy for me.
Yeah, I understand.
And so then I expected them to be able to talk back to me, right? Not just, I don't want any of that silly stuff.
And now you're very proud of them, and they should be very proud of you. Are you very close?
We're very close to each other, yes.
You never questioned yourself if you were doing all right? I mean, the way you were raising them?
No, I didn't question them, because I knew that independence came through education. And so I never questioned the education motive. And I saw myself that I was able to get out of poverty with education, and then I thought, well, I want to make sure that they are never discriminated against, man, woman, that no matter what, they should feel like they can do it. And I introduced them, to older kids, and the idea was, you can be friends with anybody, doesn't have to, can be somebody with a long title, can be somebody, the housekeeper, mm-hmm. Everybody you should be friends with and respect them. So it worked.
And really. Now Susan is the most I read it, she's the most powerful woman in internet, no?
She's the second most powerful woman in the internet, in the world.
Who's the first one?
I think it's Sheryl Sandberg.
Okay.
Yeah. Who I also know, who also is a great human being.
Now, was it difficult for you, the approach to technology at the beginning, or it was never difficult for you? I mean...
Well, so I'll just tell you what happened with the beginning of technology. I was teaching journalism in the high school, and my equipment consisted of a typewriter, and so my students typed it up on the typewriter, and then I handed out X-Acto knives to all the kids so they could cut out the story after they typed it, and then hot wax, because you pasted it on a pasteboard. So when I saw a computer, first I didn't know what it was, in a store in Los Altos. And I realized that you could just type it on the screen, and then if it was wrong, you just go backspace. I mean, it was like a miracle.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to have one of those things immediately for my class. And it was $5,000, a little pricey for me. So I wrote a grant to the state of California, and I requested 7. This was a lot of money then.
Yeah.
And everybody in the school said, oh, you'll never get it.
And you did.
And I did.
Wow.
But then here came the big challenge. Did I know how to use it? No.
No.
So I said to my students one day after they arrived, it took me about 2 weeks to bring up the courage. I admitted to my students I did not know what I was doing, and could they help me set up the computers? And boy, did they think that was the best thing I ever heard. Teacher doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
And we know more.
Were you bullied?
No.
By your students?
We work collaboratively. They loved it.
Yeah, of course. And you've dedicated your whole life to education.
I have dedicated my whole life to education because I saw the power it had with me. And I think about all these people that maybe, you know, they don't feel in control of their lives. And I realized that education can help them too. And today education, it's everywhere. You can get it online. Khan Academy, you know, there's so many opportunities to learn on the web.
If you have internet.
If you have internet, but I'm working.
That's another story, I understand, but it is a problem for a lot of people.
It is a problem, and I am very concerned that not everybody has that. And so one of the projects I'm working on is to try to help get computers that will work in environments without strong internet, low internet, or, you know, almost absence. And Google was very interested in this. They had this thing called Project Loon, trying to get
the balloon,
the big balloon, trying to get internet to all areas of the world. So I am very interested in this because I think all these areas that don't have access, I would like to see if there isn't a way we can still connect to the internet. And they are working on it.
Wow, that's very good news.
Yes.
For the whole world. I mean,
I think it's great news for the whole world.
It is. And now, what do you think of the traditional system, educational system, the traditional educating system?
So the traditional system, it works really well for the last century.
Exactly. Is it obsolete?
It's obsolete. So today, everybody, even low-income people, they all have a phone in their pocket. Mm-hmm. And in that phone, they can search for things and find information. And you can actually learn on your phone. And so you don't have to sit in a class and listen to a lecture or go to the library and get a book. You can go online and search for something. So some of the areas that don't have internet yet, as I said, we're working on that, but most people have this facility on their phone and on their computer. So what we need to do is teach people how to search, how to get that information they want. And that's something that's really important.
In a classroom? You still believe in the schools and the classrooms?
Okay, so let's talk about the classroom. The traditional classroom is not effective today because no one wants to sit and listen to a boring lecture. No one. I mean, even adults don't want to. So the most effective thing to do is to use technology to get students to find out about a topic. For example, you're trying to find out something about current events, something that happened. You get the students to find out something about that event, whatever event it is, maybe unfortunately some of the tragedies that have happened, and then they come to class with the information because they can find it. And then what you do in class is have a discussion.
Discuss, yeah.
Then they're all engaged. And so they don't want to sit there and listen to me talk about it. They want to do something about it. So that is, they want active participation. People learn when they do something. They don't learn when they sit there and memorize just for a test.
Oh, you forget the other day.
Well, the statistics show that even if you got an A on a test, 2 weeks later, you would fail the same test because you forget. So what's the purpose of memorizing all that stuff? I mean, you want to memorize some things. Memorization is still important, but it's not the whole thing like it was last century. Because last century we didn't have computers. It was in the library, right? You had to go to the library, get a book, read the book, and then try to remember.
Yeah.
Today, if I want to know how to get to another part of Mexico City, I just take it out of my pocket and look it up.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Or if I want to know something about the president of Mexico 10 years ago, I just look it up. You know, information is at my fingertips and at everybody's fingertips.
But what are you proposing? Like,
So
your proposal is not to disappear the traditional system.
My proposal
maybe
is to share.
Blend.
It's called blended learning. So I have a book called Moonshots in Education, and it's launching blended learning in the classroom.
I couldn't find it here, actually. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I will send you one.
Yeah, send me one.
It's actually,
I wanted to read it before the interview, but I couldn't find it. But you're going to send it to me.
It's actually in Spanish, been translated in Spanish, Random House. So I should give them a call while I'm here and ask them, where is it?
Exactly, great. But this is what you're proposing, like to blend.
To blend. So you have, the ideal would be 50% of the time is lecture, and the other 50% of the time is project-based, using technology, computers to find the information and to work on that information. And many schools don't want to do 50-50 because they're like, oh, maybe that won't work. They're a little afraid. So my idea was, how about 80% traditional, just because I'm willing to share, and 20% is this new style of education, where you're having the students find the information supported by the computer, using Khan Academy, for example, to find the information. Khan Academy is in Spanish now, by the way.
I know.
So they have...
I interviewed.
Oh, you interviewed Saul. Oh,
He's
yeah.
wonderful.
He is fantastic.
He's fantastic.
Right.
He
and
is fantastic.
So everything's been...
And he was here with Carlos Lim and then with the Minister of Education, so they're working together to have it,
So I support all of that, and I've been a Saul Khan supporter for a long time, and he's a friend of mine. And I think it works very well. You know, students can get that information and then work on things. They can repeat it as many times as they want until they understand it. And he has it for math, you know, and science, and actually there's some history in there as well. There's a lot of different topics, financial education. It's very easy to use. And there's Coursera is the MOOC, massive open online course. Coursera, Udacity. Udacity is, they pay you back if you take their courses and don't get a job.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Udacity. And the third one is called edX. And it's, again, this massive open online course. You can take these courses for free online. Well, why not? You know, if it's available, you can easily do it.
Now, this 80-20,
yes.
Is it going on in the States already, or certain schools, or what has been the response?
The response has been really positive. It's going on in many schools, and in Palo Alto Unified School District, where I am located, there are some teachers that are even doing 50-50.
Oh, wow.
So 50% traditional, 50% project-based blended learning. So the student is responsible for getting the information themselves, coming to class, and talking to other students about it. And it's in all subjects. So I do media, journalism, and my students write and produce newspapers, magazines, television, radio, movies, all of this with the aid of technology, and they're totally empowered. So what do they learn by doing all this stuff? They learn how to collaborate, which everybody wants, how to communicate in writing and, you know, in all kinds of technology areas. And those are really important skills for the 21st century. They also learn critical thinking, because this is key.
They have to teach you how to think.
Well,
and how to search for information also.
Yes, how to search for information, how to think. Just think about it, a journalist. You're a journalist.
Yeah.
The most important thing, I think the skills of a journalist are the best skills for students to learn. Just think about it. What do you learn to do? First, gather information from primary sources, right?
Yeah.
Second, analyze that information. Third, pick out what's most important. Do you know most people can't do that? They can't, all the information, they don't know what's most important. Fourth, write it up so somebody wants to read it. Not just your poor teacher that's paid to read it. Someone wants to read it. And fifth, publish it online using technology.
Wow.
Just think of all the skills you learn doing that.
Do you still test your, you still teach, right?
I still teach.
And you test your students?
I test the students. I tell you, they test at the highest levels without teaching to the test.
What kind of test?
It's a typical test like that. Well, you know, the SAT tests.
SAT, yeah.
The state had, in the state of California, there were state mandated tests. Every state has its own tests, and they want to make sure the students are learning whatever.
I know.
And so, but the students usually, they test so high that they test out by the 11th grade, so they don't have to take it even in the 12th grade.
Do you have grandchildren?
9.
9 grandchildren, wow. Are they being sent to a traditional school, or how are they learning?
Well,
or what would you do if you had children again?
I would actually send them to a school that had the blended learning program. And so 50-50. Yeah, well, just imagine.
80-20 is not enough.
Do you want all those kids to be excited about school? I think so. So why not let them work on projects that they care about? And so in my journalism program, they can write about what they care about. So I had some girls in the program, they wanted to write about how to fix your hair. I was like, that's fine with me. As long as you know how to write about it.
Yes.
My hidden agenda is, can you write? Can you figure out what's most important? And can you use the technology in a way that makes sense? So they wrote hair stories, they wrote recipe stories.
Whatever they're interested in.
Whatever, they wrote fashion, they took pictures of each other wearing crazy fashion. They loved it. And then I said, I'm not sure anybody's going to read your story or read your publication, but guess who was wrong?
You.
Me. Everybody wanted to read it.
Exactly. Do you think, like nowadays, young people are more interested in entertainment than information, for example?
I think they're very interested in entertainment. They're interested in information as well, but not only when it pertains to something that they want to do. But they're very interested in entertainment. That's why YouTube is so popular, and everybody posts their videos. Do you know how many YouTube videos are posted every 45 seconds? 100 hours.
Wow.
So people are posting their videos, and then everybody else wants to see those videos. And
it's about nothing or anything, or
well, for me, like
tutorial.
I wanted to change my refrigerator filter.
And you look.
I looked it up on YouTube, and sure enough, it was there.
Yeah, it was there.
Can you imagine? And then, if I really want to be entertained and I don't want to think, I can look up the cat videos, or watch the cats do some silly things. Or I can watch some of my grandchildren who make videos. They do silly things, so I can watch that. Or if I want to watch now on YouTube, I can watch news programs. PBS is on YouTube. There's more television on YouTube these days. I mean, unfortunately, well, I don't watch television.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to ask you. This is a TV show.
Oh, sorry.
But not any, I mean, it's about the contents, right? Because it's not about the the thing. I mean,
No,
it's about the content,
it's the
because you
content.
can watch this TV show in your mobile.
I can watch it on my mobile. I can watch it on my computer. I can watch it when I want to watch it, not tied to the hour that it's being shown on television. It's just easier for me to watch it on another device besides the TV. So I don't know. I think that more and more people are watching things on their mobile phones and on their computers. So I think TV might, I mean, it's still there, but I think it's going down. That's my perception.
Is it going to remain, you think? Or
I think it
like
probably, I
traditional
think it
media,
will, just like traditional media, I think newspapers, I think they'll still always be there. Somebody will always want it. I think television will always be there. It won't be as popular as it was before. I think it's being phased out, but it's not going to go away completely.
now, you as a journalist,
Yes.
let me ask you about all this thing about the fake news.
Oh,
Because, I mean,
I know.
because you can Google something or you can look something up in the web and you'll find it, but you never know. I mean, how do we learn to know what's good information, what's the correct information, accurate information, and what is not?
Great questions. Great.
Thank you.
Seriously.
It's because that happens to me a lot. I mean, and this is what I do for a living, and you never know.
Right. So I'm actually working on developing a curriculum for all schools, digital literacy. We hope to have it all over the world, actually. How do you know if it's fake news or not? Well, the number one thing you have to do is look at the source. Where did it come from? That will rule out 90% of the fake news.
Well, that's journalism lesson 1, no?
That's right.
We always learn that who, when, where,
And why. That is number one. But most people don't know how to find the source. So we have to teach that. And then the second thing is, if the story sounds really unbelievable, it probably is. So you have to check and see if it's believable or not. Just like you go on the web and look, the killings tragic killing in the church in Texas, there were so many fake news stories published about that. And you need to take a look and see the origin of that. So for example, if it says USA.co as opposed to USA.com, the CO can be a fake news site.
Oh, okay.
You have to be really careful. So some of the stories came out with the person who did the shooting, was of another ethnicity, or that there were all these fake stories.
There's a purpose in the fake stories,
The purpose usually is to make one ethnicity or another look bad and to generate hatred. And, so you need to ask yourself, first, where did the story originate? And then, is that a credible website? And then after that, I don't think you're going to get fake news from really credible websites, because they're run by trained journalists who actually check their sources.
And double check.
So they've said bad things about journalists. I think it's all wrong. A trained journalist is very ethical. They're always checking their sources and always going back and forth and making sure they get both sides, and interview people on one side, interview people on another side. But these websites that just pop up and say they're news sources, you have to be very careful.
But what about the government?
Well, there's some fake news coming out of the government. Unfortunately, in the United States today, we have some fake news coming out of the government.
That all started like a couple of years ago.
It started a few years ago, and then all that fake news coming out of Russia and the impact of Russia on the American election.
una manera no convencional de informar lo que sucede en la vida de nuestro país. Un programa de infoentretenimiento. Nación 321, jueves 9:30 de la noche. Retransmisión, domingo 8:30 de la noche. Porque reconoces lo importante, el financiero Bloomberg.
That all started like a couple of years ago.
It started a few years ago, and then all that fake news coming out of Russia and the impact of Russia on the American election. So there's a very important story in The Economist this week about, is digital media going to destroy democracy? Because we don't know what to believe and what not to believe. It's very complicated.
What do you think? Social media is democracy, or it's supposed to be democracy.
Social media is democracy. It's the democratization of language and speech and discussion. I think we have to think of ways. I don't think we've thought of ways to control it yet. I think it's still a problem. Just like on Facebook, so many of the stories that come out on Facebook are fake news. And people share that. And so then it comes on your news feed and you see, oh, my friend just shared that. So then you click on it. And Facebook is paid by the number of clicks.
Yeah.
And so while they're trying to solve the problem, I know they're seriously trying, in fact, those clicks make a lot of money for them.
Yeah, of course, they do.
They're attacking their own financial structure.
Their business, yeah.
Their business model.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated situation. But I would say that if you really want to make sure
it is attempting democracy.
It is attempting democracy.
That's very dangerous.
Well, democracy is chaotic. Democracy can be dangerous.
Also, yeah.
Yes. But just like YouTube is the democratization of video. Before YouTube came along, for you to be an actor or a musician, you had to get somebody in Hollywood who said you were good. Otherwise, no, you couldn't make any money. Just look at all the people that are making millions of dollars now on YouTube as self-proclaimed entertainers. They trained themselves, or just there's a woman or many people on YouTube that offer advice, and they make a lot of money again on the clicks. And I mean, it's a different world.
But this is something that's worrying you and the whole community of tech.
Well, YouTube, the only thing that worries me about YouTube is if there's terrorist videos that are posted there that then go out and give misinformation and incite to riot. That would worry me. But YouTube is very conscious of this, and they pull them down right away. Twitter is harder to control because, I can write a tweet in an hour about something that's not true, and then it can go all over the world.
Viral.
Just like that tweet that said that the Pope supports Trump. That was a fake. And before they could stop it, it had traveled all over the world. So I don't know how to stop the tweet stuff. It's a problem. And
but it's also very democratic because everybody, I mean, it's freedom of speech. So it's angel and devil. I mean,
that's why the only thing that I think works if you want to promote democracy, the only thing that works is education. You have to teach people to be suspicious and check the sources. And if some random person says that, you know, something tragic is going to happen, or that you have to check and see if the source is credible. Because if it's not, then you should first of all, you should not share it. Mm-hmm. And secondly, you should not believe it. And I mean, it can be very hurtful, you know, and I think it's a way to protect us from the democratization of speech that might not be what you want. Mm-hmm. Just like, you know, they had this freedom of speech is limited to something. Freedom of speech, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there are some limits, and there should be. They have to be, yeah. They have to have some limits on freedom of speech on the web, and I don't know what those limits. We're thinking about it now. You know, I'd love to have this discussion again in a few months and see where we're evolving. But I am working on this curriculum with the museum in Washington, D.C. So the museum, it's a museum of the news, the history of the news. And they have a great educational website. And so I'm spending a lot of time working on that with them. And then I also have a program at the University of Oregon called Journalistic Learning Initiative. Mm-hmm. And it's creating resources for teachers to teach this in classes everywhere. So it's coming. I hope it'll be quicker than, you know, sooner rather than later, because I think we all need it.
Of course.
And
every country.
Every single country.
Every single country, yes.
And so you need it here in Mexico, but you're not alone, you know. And
how familiar are you with the Mexican educational system, or you want to do something here? Have you been in touch with somebody, or? Well,
I've been in touch a little bit with people. I've gone to see the Mexican educational system in the different schools.
Public schools?
Some public schools, some private schools. And then last night I talked to, his name's Alejandro Ramirez.
Oh, yeah.
He is, he's got a very big foundation. I think it's called Mexico First. And I'm very impressed with what they're doing, and I'd like to help support that. I think that Mexico can become one of the best countries in the world through this education, and they produce more engineers than any other country in the world. Did you know that now?
No.
On Monterey Tech.
Yeah.
And so we just need to help. I think Mexican kids are very creative, artistic, musical, in general, very innovative, and we need to just support that. And so I see the schools where the kids are still lined up in rows, still told what to do all the time, still no power for the student. But that's not just Mexico, it's worldwide. And so we need to help the community and the teachers see that students learn more when they have some control of their learning and when they want to learn. It's passion-inspired learning. And that's what my students have. They have a passion for what they're doing, which is why they learn. And then
if you don't have passion, I mean...
If you don't have passion, first of all, you're depressed.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you need to have passion for something, whether it's cooking or, you know, building bridges.
Whatever you do.
Whatever it doesn't matter. It's just you have to You have to like what you do. At least part of the time, at least 20% of the time you have to like it. And you can't spend 100% of your time being miserable.
You always enjoy what you're doing. I mean, and you're a very happy person, and you're a very happy woman. I mean, you've been very disruptive, no?
Right.
For your environment.
Yes.
And I think, are you always surrounded by young people, the students? And
I'm always
do you enjoy that?
I love being with students. There's, if you don't try to control them and you try to talk to them and understand them, I'm telling you, it's amazing. And yes, it makes me very happy to be in my classes and be with students. And just last week, I got this wonderful award, something called the Happiness Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And I got this bringing happiness to education, because I'm telling you,
That's beautiful.
it is so great, because education should be happy. Kids should go to school and enjoy being there, and not so worried about doing everything right. If you don't do it right, well, just do it again. It's
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Okay, so you
With
did
failure, I
poorly.
mean, we're so scared of failure, and failure is an everyday thing.
Right, every day. And so the fear of failure keeps you from being innovative. So stop being afraid of failing and just do it. And then, okay, it wasn't good, so do it again. And there's very few things in life that if you fail, that's going to be catastrophic. Most of the time, it's fine. There's a few important things. Of course, if you're flying an airplane, you want to make sure you're doing it right. If you're driving a car, you want to make sure that you're in the right lane.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you're writing something and it's wrong, just rewrite it. If you're doing math and the problem's wrong, redo it. And if you failed the history test, well, take it again. And if you don't understand why the history is important, well, maybe you should look that up first before you even try to take the test.
Now, you had to learn that. Were you ever afraid of failure, or were you ever afraid of something, or something frightens you right now, for example?
Let's see. I think I was afraid of failure when I was going to school, because the consequences of failure were pretty high. And but when I was in elementary school, I somehow didn't care. Small children, I don't know. I told you at 10, I figured out maybe it was worth it. And then in high school, I somehow was so interested in succeeding that I didn't have to really worry about it. But then when I went to school at Berkeley, I mean, the classes were so tough that, it was possible to fail. And so I was concerned, let's put it that way. And I worked hard, but I did not get all A's, because it was just too hard. But I got enough A's, to get through.
To get through.
And then I went on and got a graduate degree in journalism. And I loved it. I thought that was fun. So, but yeah, I was, you're always afraid of, everybody has this sort of, because it was built into the system to teach you to be afraid of failure. And they say the thing people are most afraid of, do you know what people are most afraid of? Public speaking.
Ah, yes. A lot of people, yes.
A lot of people. They are more afraid of public speaking than anything else. And that's because they're afraid of failure. And I'm telling you, they shouldn't be so afraid.
Or ridicule, maybe. Or
They're afraid of ridicule. They're afraid of looking stupid. I mean, my idea, there is no stupid question. If you didn't get it right, just ask it again. Yes, do it until you get it right. I mean, I think the only bad thing you can do is be afraid to ask a question, or be afraid to speak in public.
You were never afraid?
Oh, well, I think I was afraid. I think because back in those days, I think it was considered, especially a girl.
Yes.
And, then I remember I took advanced math classes in high school, and I was the only girl in the class. And I was ridiculed. You know, this was not considered okay for girls to be taking math class, calculus. And so that was, you know.
What's the percentage of women in Palo Alto, for example?
Percentage
I mean, like working in technology and...
not as many as we want.
It's very manly, no?
Yes. And actually also in investment banking and any kind of venture capital, it's primarily men.
Men.
So I'm working to try to get more women involved in.
Count me in. I would love to collaborate with you in that, because it's all, again, discrimination, women discrimination is all over the world. I mean,
Right. It is all over the world.
many places more or less, but it is.
But you know, I can tell you, women are really great stock pickers, and they don't know it. And the reason they're great stock pickers, they're great consumers. So you should buy what you know. And you know, you don't have to go through some large catalog or, you know, look through all the reports.
You know exactly what
You know what's popular. Just buy it. So, I mean, I just remember I bought a stock. I remember my husband's like, what kind of crazy stock did you buy? I bought Costco when it first started because I said, oh my God, I love this store.
No, really?
Yes. And I'm going to buy their stock because I love it, and I bet all my friends will love it. And I was right. It's everybody.
Of course you were right. You made a lot of money, I guess.
I made a lot of money on Costco.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I only
You should also follow your instinct. No?
follow your instincts,
Yeah,
you know, and, you know, look around and see what your friends are doing and what they like to do. And then if there happens to be a stock based, you know, just buy it, even if it's a small amount.
Of course.
You know,
We ran out of time, and I'm enjoying so much this conversation.
I love it.
For me, it's been really an honor to get to know you, and maybe we can meet next time in Palo Alto, and you'll show us around, and you tell us exactly what you do, where you do.
I would love it. I would invite you to my school and meet my students.
I would love to, yeah.
They would be honored.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you
honored.
so much.
Oh,
Enjoy your stay in Mexico.
Thank you.
And we have to talk more.
Okay.
Please.
Fantastic.
Thank you very, very much, and congratulations.
Thank
You're
you.
an amazing woman. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
too.
so
Thank
much.
you for having me.
Thank you. Muchas gracias a usted por su atención y compañía como cada miércoles. Yo soy Adela Micha y hasta la próxima. Like, we shouldn't be afraid of technology, no? What would you say? Because
You should never be afraid of technology because, you know, there's really nothing much you can do to hurt it.
and you've dedicated your whole life to education.
I have dedicated my whole life to education because I saw the power it had with me.
Your proposal is not to disappear the traditional system.
Porque reconoces lo importante, el financiero Bloomberg. Bloomberg